Well, it looks like it's about 5 minutes after, so why don't we go ahead and get started. Good afternoon. My name is Russ Henley, the Assistant Secretary for Forest Resources Management at the California Natural Resources Agency, and appreciate you joining us today, those of you in the auditorium and those of you on the phone lines and the webinar. This is a public workshop on CalTREES, the California Timber Regulation and Environmental Evaluation System. And welcome you here today. We have a PowerPoint presentation set, and the plan is for three of us to go through that. And at the end of that, we'll open up things for question and discussion in the auditorium and for folks who are on the phone. And if you do have a burning question during the presentations you'd like answered, we can take that, but our preference in general would be to hold questions until the end of the overview presentations. So I will go ahead and kick things off, I think. So meeting agenda, we'll go through the PowerPoint presentation. The speakers will introduce ourselves as we come up, give you an overview of the Timber Regulation and Forest Restoration Program, talk about our vision for the online harvesting plan submission system, talk a little bit about the development schedule for the process for developing the online application and some of the other elements, and then we'll open things up for discussion. So it's fairly brief presentations, and we'll try to move right along today. So many folks involved and interested in timber harvesting in the state of California, and hence interested in this system. We hope that we're working to develop stakeholders such as licensed professionals like professional foresters, licensed timber operators, forest landowners, members of the forest industry organizations, other professional organizations that represent licensed foresters or licensed timber operators, for example. We've had a lot of interest from environmental and conservation organizations as well as the general public who are concerned about forest management in California. Quite a few state agencies and departments involved in this, including the California Environmental Protection Agency, in particular the state and regional water boards that are under Cal EPA. And at the California Natural Resources Agency, we have the Department of Forestry and Fire Protection, which is the lead agency for timber harvesting plan review and approval, the Department of Fish and Wildlife, the California Geological Survey, and of course the Board of Forestry and Fire Protection as the responsible rule promulgating body and forest policy body in the state, of course, is a critical player in this process as well. So a little bit of background about Assembly Bill 1492 and the Timber Regulation and Forest Restoration Program under which a lot of this work is happening. So AB 1492 passed in late 2012, creating the program. And some of the key goals of that legislation are to ensure the protection of all forest resources during timber management activities, so including not just forest productivity, but also water quality, fish and wildlife, aesthetic resources, cultural resources, a whole list of important forest resources and ecological services that we all look to our forests to provide in California. And of course, this is referring to here the management of timber on non-federal forest lands, which is what this program applies to. The legislation talks about improving the harvest document review processes, looking at concerns about efficiency and effectiveness, for example. Some of the key pieces of this are improving the communication among the agencies that are involved in reviewing timber harvesting plans. And of course, we need to keep in mind that through these processes, we're not just implementing the forest practice rules, but in an integrated fashion, as integrated as we can, we're also working to implement fish and wildlife laws and water quality laws in the state, such as the Porter-Cologne Water Quality Act, the state's Endangered Species Act, et cetera. So a lot of pieces in the process here that get involved either very directly or tangentially. And certainly improving communication and interaction with the public is also an important part of this. We are working to protect resources that are in many cases public resources, and in all cases are of great concern to the public. And the public often wants to have a clear sight of what's going on in these programs and what's going on in the management of our forest lands in the state. and want to have that information and the ability to comment on what's going on through the processes for timber harvesting plan review, for example. So CalTREES is indeed a multi-agency effort. We're working very hard together to achieve the objectives of AB 1492, and CalTREES is just one piece of that. So some of the major elements of the Timber Regulation and Forest Restoration Program direction that we have from AB 1492, and touched on these a little bit already, to improve the efficiency, transparency, and data collection of the state's timber harvest review team agencies and the departments who serve that function. And secondly, to develop a method for periodic reporting to the legislature. We have some very substantial reporting responsibilities that are laid out in the bill, and aside from helping to run the process for the review, approval, implementation of forest practice rules and timber harvesting activities, this will also help us to have a more easy method of collecting the information that we need to provide to the legislatures and others as a part of accountability for our performance in our programs. And so this is a graphic I've often used to talk about our program, the AB 1492 Accountability Triangle. And at the base, I place ecological performance measures. Ultimately, that's the measure of what we're achieving in our implementation of these multiple natural resources laws. They want to make sure that fish and wildlife, water quality, forest productivity, cultural resources, and other things are all being protected. And we need to have measures for being able to track those and provide assurances to the public that those are being addressed as a part of these processes. On the left-hand side is administration transparency and efficiency, which is the primary focus of CalTREES. Again, I've already touched on a lot of the pieces of this, so I won't go on any further on those. But I also do want to bring in that the environmental data assembly and sharing piece you see on the right-hand side of the triangle is also an important piece of this. Landowners and foresters need environmental information to conduct the analyses that are required as a part of timber harvesting activities. The agencies need this information to help support their review of them, as do members of the public, conservation organizations, et cetera, who are concerned about how these activities are being implemented, needs information as well to be able to apply their own judgment to what's happening out there on the landscape. And so I think there are some opportunities as well for CalTREES to help provide some of the data over across to the environmental data and assembly sharing side of the triangle. And then ultimately coming back around to the bottom of the triangle, in order to have meaningful ecological performance measures, you have to have real data behind them. So just kind of completing the loop going around that accountability triangle. So that wraps up my initial presentation, and I'll turn things over to Dan Craig from CAL FIRE.
Afternoon, Dan Craig, CAL FIRE. Right now I'm one of the I'm on the project team as a representative of CAL FIRE, working towards putting this project together. Just real quick, as we work through it, I wanted to look at the objectives of CAL FIRE. We want to be able to provide online submission system for timber harvesting documents. That's all of our documents that we have out there, from exemptions, emergencies, to the timber harvest plans and NTMPs. We want to be able to make a system that we can, the users will be able to get this stuff into us, and the review process will be transparent as we go along with all the other agencies. And we want to provide a more collaborative process for reviewing timber harvest documents. Again, bringing in the other agencies and the public in that reviewing process so they can see where we're at and what steps have been taken to review and accept or deny the harvesting document. We want the ability to validate data upon submission. So that would be the user being able to verify certain aspects of things, such as licenses of LTOs or RPS prior to submission, ability to capture and track submission-specific information. That goes back to our reporting requirements. Improve public comment process, accessibility and transparency, and improve stakeholder groups' access to documents. All this is in an effort to try to bring the review process, bring it more in alignment with one another so that we all can we're viewing it all at the same time, and we're able to get all the pieces of information we need collectively so we can make decisions in a more readily fashion, and everybody knows that their concerns are being addressed. So the features that we're looking at putting into CalTREES, RPFs, LTOs, and landowners will be reminded of regulatory requirements prior to submission. The hope is that we'll be able to develop a system that provides some kind of inline instructions or online instructions as they go through the process. It'll allow them to know that if there's rules in a specific county or in a specific area that they need to address, that they'll have those addressed initially rather than waiting for a review team to catch that and ask those questions. And it allows the public to know that all the aspects of it are being addressed at the beginning. So when they're reviewing it, they're reviewing something that would be a little bit more of a complete document. Reviewing agencies, departments, and personnel will be notified of deadlines and review. The process there is to just allow all the agencies and the public to know what part of the review process we're in so that they can make their comments timely and know what's coming down the line next on that harvesting document. And that goes along with the electronic notifications and document distribution to submitters, landowners, and timber owners, and to those that may request that may be requesting these documents as well, rather than calling up to an office and waiting for someone to get it photocopied and get it in the mail. The hope is to be able to get it right back to someone immediately and quickly so that they can do the searches and the reviews that they need to do. Again, more efficient reporting and then better agency accountability. Those are the features, the objectives and the features that CAL FIRE is looking at in the initial stages of this project to get it off the ground. And of course, anything from the public sector that we'd like that they like to see, we'd like to hear more feedback on terms of that, so that we can provide a better service when we're doing our review to both the submitters, the landowners, and to the public. At this point, I'll turn it over to Mary, and she'll look at the development schedule and what we've been going through and will be going through.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Kalea. I'm with the Natural Resources Agency, and I am the IT project director for the CalTREES initiative. We are looking at a 3-phase implementation of this project. The first phase we are currently in kicked off late September. We are focusing on emergencies and exemptions, and we're developing the foundational pieces not only for emergencies and exemptions, but for the THPs and NTMPs that are yet to come. Our phase 2 will focus on the THP plans and the NTMPs, and this will go through first review, second review, the PHIs, and the director's determination. One of the key things we will be looking at in this phase 2 is the public comment period, how we perform that process, where we can make improvements and provide more automated features or more readily accessible information to the folks who want to see it. The third phase will be the operational phase. That's where the inspections, violations, law enforcement, stalking, completion reports, it's the operational post-approval activities. These phases will occur over 2.5 years. Phase 1 and phase 2 are about 12-month initiatives. The third phase is a 4 to 6 month initiative. In addition to these 3 phases, we will be retiring the current computer system, FPS, and it has the licensing function as well. So we will be moving that across to the new CalTREES so that we can decommission the old historic system, FPS. We are going through the application development process. We have obtained professional services to help us in developing the system. Our prime is Visionary Integration Professionals, VIP, and they have teamed with subcontractors from Excella. Excella is the software that we're using, primary software that we're using to develop the application. We had shown a demo of that back at one of the board meetings, and so we're making sure that we have their expertise in on the process as we develop these new features that Dan was talking about. We're using an iterative process to develop the system. So not only are we developing it in the 3 phases I just talked about, but we're actually taking small groups of features and developing them from beginning to end, which is a little unlike development in the past where you gave a programmer your requirements, they went away for a year, they came back and said, see, here it is. So we have much more interaction between our programmers and our program people from both CAL FIRE and the review team agencies, and we're soliciting input from the public as well as all the submitters, the LTOs, the RPFs. We want successful adoption of this system, and in order to get that, we need to hear about the people, what the people need, and that's part of why we're doing this workshop today. We will gather input throughout the project. We'll have some forms in the back of the room if you want to participate in the design session. Also on the workshop announcement, for those of you on the phone, you can contact Dan Craig directly to be invited to those design sessions. We want to make sure that we are incorporating your feedback into the design of the system and hitting the pain points that you may have now and seeing how we might be able to alleviate some of those. We are using standard industry standards both for project management. We're using PMBOK, which is a best practice. We are using an agile development methodology. Again, it's a standard best practice in industry for system development. And last but certainly not least is organizational change management. It's a fancy term to say that even though what we do is not going to change, how we submit plans, how we access information is going to fundamentally change. And we need to have the right things in place with both training, education, and communication. We will be bringing on some folks that specialize in change management, in training and education, to make sure, once again, that we're heading forward to successful adoption of the system by providing you all with the system that you're willing to use. We will continue communication, workshops like this, periodic briefings at the Board of Forestry and Fire Protection meetings, and last but not least are these project design sessions where you can have one-on-one interaction with the project team, with the programmers. You can see what's being developed, you can provide input, and we sincerely hope that you engage with us to make this the best possible product. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Russ for questions, input, comments.
Thank you, Mary and Dan. And just want to make sure people know we are recording this webinar, so people will be able to access it later to get information, to hear the presentation, to hear the questions, answers, comments, and things like that. So that'll get posted to our website at the Resources Agency. And so we'll bounce back and forth, taking questions and comments from here in the Resources Auditorium and on the phone lines. And for folks in the Resources Auditorium, we have a hand mic. We'll ask that you use that for your questions and comments so we can make sure that the people online are able to hear them. So why don't we start in the auditorium? Are there any questions or comments here in the auditorium? Yes.
Thank you. I'm not sure I heard Mary right. I thought I heard you say that you aren't going to change what you do. Did I hear that correctly? But you are going to change something.
So the point that I was making was that we still have to follow the rules. So the rules and the processes we have to follow by the Board of Forestry rules, those aren't going to change. How we go about doing things, submission, getting access to information, that kind of thing is definitely going to change.
And so about that, what interests me, and I don't have that much experience with THP, actually almost none, but what does interest me is where the THP interfaces with TPZ and conversion, which process is very hard, not very opaque at all. I've been trying to find out how it works for months by asking several people here and there, you know, around TPZ, THP, and I know THP field people are working with the applicants for conversion or development on the lands without the public being involved. So that's just an example of what I'm not sure if that process is going to change or get more understandable.
I'm going to hand that one over to Dan.
So I believe what you're talking about is like the conversion processes that are in place right now?
Well, and the TPZ rezone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so at the moment, this, excuse me, this product that we're working on is just for the Timber Harvest Plan, NTMP, emergency and exemption type process. We haven't looked into what it's going to take to go into the full-blown conversion or into like rezoning. It shouldn't get into any of the rezoning type stuff. A lot of that is through the county entities, and we're only working through the review agencies for the timber harvest plans and such, which will go into the conversions. They have to file a THP for a conversion, but that's the extent of where we'll be going with it. If I'm understanding your question correctly.
Yeah, since I'm involved in my first familiar process with this, I'm not exactly sure what to ask, but thank you. I'll think about it.
Conversion process, that's a secret review process that can be initiated or can be done by us, but it can be done other places as well. But it comes through the state clearinghouse and then through us, which the timber harvest plan will be filed once that conversion's been approved. So that may be what you're thinking of.
Most specifically, the TPZ rezoning process.
Yeah, that won't be done through this process at all.
But THP is involved with that. THP is.
Now, was this with Toby? Yeah. Okay. So this is Toby McGrath. He's our legal counsel. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, we did a microphone, Toby.
So initially with conversions of TPZ, it begins with the county with the immediate rezoning by the county. And then at that point, the applicant will file a timberland conversion permit with the department. In order to approve a conversion on TPZ, the department has to make a number of specific findings, and we could talk offline if you'd like me to point you to those in the rules. Findings including there's no proximate suitable non-TPZ land available for the same purpose, that kind of thing. And then, so those findings are different than the regular timberland conversion permit process, but the original environmental review document will be done by the county as the lead agency. CAL FIRE would act as a responsible agency for the issuance of the timberland conversion permit and of the timber harvest plan. So the timber harvest plan, as Dan said, would be filed. It's usually filed along with the timberland conversion permit, but there's a rule that says it can't be approved until the timberland conversion permit has been approved. So it is a little confusing because there are the two separate tracks, the THP, which would go through the full public review process that a regular THP would go through. But the EIR, or the mitigated neg deck, or whatever the environmental document is, would be done by the county before it comes to the department in the form of a timberland conversion permit. So the THP will be performed under this process, but the timberland conversion permit would be handled under a different process.
Okay, but then what I'm familiar with, very early in the CEQA process, long before the county acted, you had the THP person that would be involved later, actually actively involved, and you have someone, one or two people from CAL FIRE, the TPZ person, and several CAL FIRE people meeting with the applicant in the county, meetings, early CEQA meetings, whereas the public can't even be told what's going on, or ask what's going on, and there's nobody to meet with or return your questions yet. After months,
Yeah, I think what you're talking about is the initial scoping process. Because conversion of TPZ is kind of a difficult animal because of the different players involved. But generally, if someone is going to submit an application for immediate rezone, the county is going to contact CAL FIRE because we are a responsible agency and we're stuck with whatever environmental document that comes out of the county. So for everyone's benefit, it's best for the county to approach CAL FIRE ahead of time and say, and this is normal in any CEQA process, what are your concerns so that we can address them in the environmental document, so that when the environmental document is approved by the county, it comes to CAL FIRE in a condition that we can readily issue the timberland conversion permit. If those concerns aren't addressed initially in the local entity's environmental document, then it becomes very hard for us to address them subsequently as a responsible agency. So that, I think what you're talking about is the initial scoping process where notice of preparation is sent out to all potential trustee and responsible agencies. They provide comments to the applicant or to the lead agency, explaining what the responsible agency's concerns are. And again, that's for the purposes of ensuring that those concerns are addressed in the environmental document that eventually winds up in the hands of CAL FIRE and other responsible agencies that have to issue a permit based on it.
And the public, I agree with you that that's what should happen, if it does. It doesn't show up in the draft EIR. Thank you.
Okay, any more questions here in the auditorium? Seeing none, let's go online, and we'll ask you folks who are on the phones to kindly take turns in posing your questions or comments. So the first person on the phones would like to go ahead.
This is Susan Robinson. Is anybody else queued up?
Hi, Susan. Having a little trouble hearing you, but please go ahead.
Yeah. We've been plummeted by snow and had our power out for 2 days. I just got it back, so I'm on a temporary land phone, and I have no ability to mute, so hopefully the cat crying in the background. So the power just came on after 2 days right before I called in. So I apologize for the confusion that I couldn't get to the presentation. It wouldn't link up, but I do have some questions and comments, so I'll proceed with that if that's okay.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, great, thank you. I really commend the department's and resources work on this. I think it's great for the future, bring CAL FIRE into a new era, and so I welcome this. I've been involved in some major IT projects and management of change in the past, so today I heard all of the buzzwords that should be said in meetings like this being said. I don't mean that in a facetious way. I mean that honestly, that the management of change is a really important thing, and I hope your session went well this morning with more of the LTO crowd. So we're hopeful that this will give us an opportunity to increase transparency and make the THP process easier for the public to access and interact with. So I'll just mention a couple of the other things. We'll send in substantive comments. I would expect a number of people, a handful at least, perhaps, would want to be involved in some of the additional work that was mentioned in terms of scoping and further detailing the process through the different phases. One of the things that I think is important for effectiveness is that for the public to be able to submit THP comments in a PDF form. That's important because many of the comments have references and attachments. In the current process, the attachments, pictures that are illustrative and other members of the public should be able to see are not made public through the FTP process. And so I hope that would be thought through and doable with this change. I cannot foresee that typing public comments, which are often 10, 15 pages, at times, on an online form is going to work. So I wouldn't think that would be the way industry would support a lot of, submit a lot of their things too. So I'm hoping that that will be a feature. So whatever is put there needs to be searchable so that members of the public can find in a DFW comment the word blue heron or the word goshawk or whatever other species or other word that you want to find in the lengthy THP processes documents that would be able to find those words. Right now, they're posted online in a non-searchable form. So DFW takes other documents and does a process through a PDF, Adobe Pro, to make them searchable, as does the public, and it's just not a very good process. So hopefully that will be thought of. Hopefully the complete file will be kept in the record. That means the entire public comment, not just certain questions that the agency deems important to put in the official responses. And if documents are submitted or available to the agency in color, such as maps, those should be available. So those are just a slight sample of some of the comments that we would be submitting during this next comment period, I guess.
Okay, thank you, Susan. And if you would like to, if anybody would like to submit written comments, those can go to Dan Craig. I believe his email address was in the announcement, but just for convenience, it is dan.craig, C-R-A-I-G, @fire.ca.gov.
Yeah, I wasn't able to access the online webinar. Hopefully others on the phone were. It took me to the morning session when I went to the document that's for this afternoon in the agenda, so perhaps it's my computer being difficult because of my previous power outages. Russ, could you make if there was a PowerPoint or the presentation available somehow to others in case anybody else had the same problem?
Yeah, and I know we don't seem to have, we have a good number of callers, but they don't seem to be showing up as webinar on the webinar.
I couldn't get to it, and I went back in on different servers. I went on my iPhone versus my computer,
okay.
And or different servers, different like Foxfire and Explorer. And I think the problem is that when you hit the link on the page, it actually took you to the morning session, which is not live right now. And it wouldn't allow me to join it. It took me to the CalTREES link, page, but it just wouldn't allow me to get further because it said
okay.
The host start your meeting was a live link. So I think the wrong thing got pasted in maybe.
So sorry about that. We will post the PowerPoint presentation to our resources agency website along with the recordings of both webinars, and that website address is resources.ca.gov/forestry. So once again, resources.ca.gov/forestry.
Russ, this is Suzanne Lang, and I'm just going to confirm that the webinar doesn't seem to be available.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. My apologies for that.
Doing that, so it wasn't just me because things have been pretty glitchy up here.
Okay, other questions or comments from folks on the phones?
Hi, no one else is waiting to go, this is Megan Fisk with the Central Sierra Environmental Resource Center. I also was not able to access the webinar, so I missed that part of the morning, but I just wanted to second some of Susan's comments about being grateful moving forward with this a more accessible format for viewing THPs for the public comment, and that I also second the desire to have the PDFs be searchable. I know that that program is available to people, but it's not free, so general members of the public are not able to search within any of the documents that are available currently. And then I also just wanted to add that some access to better mapping would be wonderful, having previous treatments and being able, either through GIS files or more detailed maps being provided with the THPs that show the areas that are going to be treated, but also the previous treatments that have occurred in those areas. And we will also be submitting some written comments that are more detailed, but those are just a couple of things I wanted to second Susan's comments about. And then also, lastly, I've just found that in going through the different sections and the different PDF documents, sometimes I want to find a piece of information that I know I read and I can't remember what part of the THP that is contained in, so some sort of table of contents would be helpful as well. Just knowing where, in what, what is included in Section 3 and what is included in Section 2 and those sorts of details. Yeah, that's all I have. Thanks for being open to our input and moving this to a more accessible platform.
Okay, next person on the phones. Okay, hearing nobody new on the phones, let's circle back to the auditorium. Do we have any additional questions or comments from the auditorium? Looks like we do.
I think someone referred to, mine's Mike Arabedian, I think somebody referred to how now you need to call Reading, where the file is, to get the document sent to you. I think that's, I'm not sure that's how it works now, but I think that I still haven't made that callback. So is the thrust of this that all the documents will be online, or do you know?
Yes, all the documents will be online through this, and currently documents are online through an FTP site, so you don't have to call Reading. You can just go online and go through the file tree and find the individual THP documents themselves. So they are all online right now.
Great.
And let's go back to, I think that's all we have in the auditorium right now. Let's go back to the phones and see if there are any more questions or comments on the phone lines.
Russ, I would just like to add that I talked with Marilee Woodhouse with Battle Creek Alliance and Rob DePerno with EPIC, and Rob's either traveling or in Sacramento for something else today, and so they weren't able to attend. And I will be seeking out their input as I, comment in this process too. They may not take this on as one of their major projects, but they're interested and hopeful also, and just wanted to add that.
Yeah, thank you. We would welcome further input, and as Mary stressed in her presentation, this is going to be an ongoing process where we will want to provide ample opportunities throughout for people to provide comments, including, as Mary suggested, we're welcoming people if they want to sign up to get directly involved in design work. We would welcome them. We will also have periodically similar workshops to this, where we'll give updates on what we have developed and seek further input from folks. So we really, again, it's really critical that this work for you as consumers, as customers of this website, as our service of this program, And so the more feedback we can get from you as we go along, the better a job we can do to meet your needs and is the best way possible.
And Russ, I would ask that if there's any way, I know design work is sometimes best done with people in a room and whiteboards, but you know, the modern era is upon us, and if there's any way those sessions can be done remotely with webinar or, you know, some other kind of process, that would be really welcomed by some of us who, you know, it's a lot to travel the distance to Sacramento for short meetings. Or
if you can even get here because of the snow.
Well, it was pretty gnarly the last couple of days, but that's okay. And we also, my water line broke too, so.
Oh dear.
I'm having lots of fun. I can't get to it for weeks because of.
Well, there's plenty of snow to melt.
Well, it's not that much in Arnold. It's, I don't know, I guess I had total of 2 feet or something, but it's not good when they're trying to dig up water mains. But anyway.
Yeah. Okay, thank you,
yeah,
Susan.
I would be interested in probably parts of the design work. And, you know, the phases I think are really important just for quick check-ins on some issues. It sounds like you have some good consultants, so that's really great.
Yep, critical.
Oh, I had one more question. I forgot. Is it going to be possible to feed from the THPs the stats, or like during the approval process when a you know, you have the submitted stats of THP, you know, so many acres will be clear cut, so many will be selection, so many will be whatever, and then there's a total, and then later on that may change in the review process, and there's an approved number. Will that those statistics then from exemptions or anything like that feed the system then for the statistics, I assume, out of the department?
Dan or Dennis Hall's with us now. Can you answer that for us?
Hi, Susan. This is Dennis Hall, and that is our intent, is to make all the data, all the figures accessible, and then because of the system being online, our hope is to keep a record even of the changes, so that you'll get real-time changes as well as what was in there in the past when it was submitted.
That would be fabulous. And, you know, it might be interesting to be sure that that is available both by county but as well by the watershed, because there's so much focus on watersheds today. So if those stats then could then feed into the watershed stats as well as the you know, county stats as well as in the total state stats, and be able to do all the kinds of analysis that you can do out of that still, you know, with timber offer, you know, timber owner, all that kind of stuff. It would be really a powerful system.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Any other questions or comments from the phones?
Oh, I do have one last one. Are you there still?
Yes.
How did the morning session go? What was the reception from the
morning session? Went good. Good discussion, good participation, both here in the auditorium and online, and lots of questions and comments there, and people interested and concerned about how the system's going to work and how it's going to help to make life better for them, hopefully, in the process of submitting harvesting plans. So I felt like we had good discussion, good participation, and we will get that. The webinar was recorded, as I mentioned, so we'll have that posted on our website, and you're, of course, welcome to listen to that.
That would be great. I hope there's support for you guys overall.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty positive.
Great.
Well, let's cycle back to the auditorium. Any questions, comments in the auditorium? Seeing none, let's go back to the phones one more time. Any last questions or comments on the phone? Okay, hearing none, let me invite and see if Dan or Dennis or Mary would like to make any wrap-up comments before we close up here. Like Dennis Hall from CAL FIRE.
Yeah, this is Dennis, and I just wanted to reiterate something that Russ said, and that's that we welcome any comments throughout the process so that we can evaluate how to make the system better, how to make it more interactive and open to the public. I think one of the main goals of AB 1492 is transparency, and this will be a big step forward. So.
All right. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you very much, everybody, for participating today. And you've got Dan's contact information for following up. You can go to the Resources Agency website to get recordings and the PDF for this presentation. So apologize for the glitch in the webinar. You did just miss a basic PowerPoint presentation with bullets and no pretty pictures, so it was pretty simple, but we will get that posted so you'll have that available for your information. Thank you very much, and really look forward to and encourage and request your ongoing participation in this process as we go forward. Thank you, and good day.